I'm Councillor Neil Gulliver from Chelmsford City Council. I'm also the Cabinet Member for Planning and Economic Development.
You sound a very, very busy person with all those titles and responsibilities. Tell us a bit about that area behind you, which is covered with earth. Where are we and why are we here?
We're right on the edge of the Beaulieu development, but particularly of interest behind me was the archaeological dig that took place a while back, and there was firstly a kiln was found which was believed to be for producing mortar for the buildings in the area. So not only are we getting new houses, but we've had buildings here for many hundreds of years.
We're here at the site of an ancient kiln. It's believed that it's circa Henry VIII. Harry had it built and was making bricks for his palace or something or other. What do you think?
Certainly there was a lot of building work taking here during the time of Henry VIII, and probably in his younger years, I'm given to understand. So that's why it's believed to be the forerunner of Hampton Court and other palaces that he's built in the future. The lime kiln is interesting because it shows that we've had large-scale brick production taking place, and obviously a substantial building or buildings have been erected here sometime in that early reign of Henry VIII.
Have you been here, Councillor Gulliver, to see the remains of a huge site just to the right of you, to the left of you rather? Have you been here, Councillor Gulliver, and seen what was there to your left? A huge array of brick pads indicating by the size of them that there must have been huge brick columns above them supporting some kind of structure.
It's interesting. The feedback I've had from the archaeological dig was that these brick pads never contained or were used for any wall, but would appear to have been supports for probably a substantial roof of some type. So it would have been an outside area, probably like a modern day barbecue area, but it's conjecture as to what it was, but it was really interesting that such a large scale roof was required in this area.
There are theories that it could be a temporary summer house, some kind of structure that would have been ample and kingly enough to have held jousting competitions, and there might have been one or two floors to support visiting kings and royalty and nobility to watch jousting, because this was around about the time when Henry was still in his jousting prime, and he was a jouster and he loved it. That's one theory. The other theory is that it could be a prototype of a temporary palace that was constructed at the Field of the Cloth of Gold in France. That's a conjecture. Whatever it is, you believe that it's a temporary structure of some kind of the Henry VIII period.
Certainly in that early period when he was a young man, something was happening here of quite significance, I believe. It wasn't a small structure that was being put here. It was the sort of thing that we probably would have seen being used in Roman times. It was a big area where people would have come out to play and relax. As part of the development here of Beaulieu, there was an undertaking to do an archaeological dig to see if there was anything that was of interest. And really there's been a lot of discoveries here. There's been a kiln discovered, which was just behind me, and whilst there's been a number of these found all over the country, this one is particularly well preserved and has been maintained, so hopefully further research can be done in the future. But what really has caught my interest are the brick pads that also stand behind me. These obviously took some heavy structure in the past, and we've heard from the archaeologists that were responsible, that this now requires further investigation on their behalf as people speculate as to what could have happened. It is clear that there's a heavy roof or structure has been built on these pads, and we now await the report, which unfortunately seems to be delayed with the archaeologists at the moment. But once that has been published, I believe that should be of great interest to the residents here in the area. In the meantime, I hope that Countryside, working with the archaeologists, can put some sort of display poster board here, actually highlighting what's of interest, so people in the future, as they walk past on the footpath, will actually appreciate the heritage of what we have here. If you look at the pillars that were, the brick pillars that were in situ, there was clearly a substantial support built on top of those. We've got Essex clay behind us. It must have taken quite a considerable weight. I think now it is a case of seeing what the experts come up with. It will be interesting to see if there are any links with other palaces. I know the Time team came here some years ago and did some work at New Hall School, and they saw that as the precursor for some of the bigger palaces that were built around London. It would be really interesting to see if there are any similar brick pads in situ in those areas when work has been undertaken. So I think the report has a lot that it has to answer, and a lot of information that it can give to us.
Councillor Gulliver, you don't believe that New Hall Convent School is, in its brick structure, the lost Palace of Beaulieu, do you?
No, I don't. It's historically quite a gap between New Hall School, which I suppose came here over 300 years ago when the nuns set up the monastery. We're in a situation now where we're looking back towards Henry VIII, and it must be a case that where links are now being made with the earlier archaeology, that there must be some real connection between the lime kiln, the brick pads, and other construction work that was undertaken by Henry VIII.
You've been researching a certain subject regarding this, what should we call it, the field of the cloth of clay perhaps at the moment, because I'd like to turn your eye to that recent, what can I put it, I would say potential desecration of the site. If you'd look to your right, could you tell our viewers what on earth is that? Huge, great drainage ditch going right through the centre of those collection of, what, 20 to 30 brick pads. How could it possibly have missed them, Councillor Gulliver?
I'm told by the archaeologists from Essex County Council who were overseeing the work that took place here, I'm told that the ground levels are such that the brick pads are still in situ. What we've actually got here is something that's called a SUD, which is a strategic urban drainage system. And right through here, right down to Boreham Brook, we now have a series of pipes and swales which are draining the water.
What's a swale? I've never heard of that. It sounds Anglo-Saxon. What is a swale?
I think it probably is. It's a term still used by the planners with regard to areas of indentation into the land where water can be held for a short period before it's taken off. And here it will be taken off and piped down to Boreham Brook to drain this area.
I'm going to challenge you, Councillor, as a planning head and a representative of Chelmsford City Council. Why can't we preserve this site for posterity, turn it into a tourist attraction, preserve the lime kiln in situ, apply to the English heritage, Forget about stuffing museums full of artifacts from here and turn this into a site that the town, which is the birthplace of wireless, can be proud of. Why is it that Chelmsford City Council, not blaming you personally, but over the years have only covered over sites like the Iron Age site, which is partially covered over by B&Q? Why doesn't the council go in for preserving any kind of heritage at all? It's said cynically that if City Council had found the skull of Richard III in the Riverside surface car park, they probably would have put it back and said they were preserving it. That's quite a challenge, Councillor. What does the City Council reply? That they are barbarians?
Well, I would say you're wrong. In this particular case where we are, I've been asking exactly the same questions as you have. And the fact is that the brick kiln was a temporary structure and was probably only ever designed to be in place for some weeks, probably at the most a few months. And the archaeologists say that whilst it was well preserved, whilst it was covered, if we were to leave it uncovered now, not only would it be open to weathering, it would also be open to vandalism. Now to this I've actually said, can we not cover this in some sort of plastic shield or something like this?
Or how about getting a loan or some money from English Heritage to put it in a preserved structure? What is the problem with that? Because we're touching something that Henry VIII could have warmed himself his cockles by as he passed by. We're touching Henry VIII when we come to this site, but we won't be, because the council are determined to cover it, as we can see the depth there, to cover it back and not let anyone see it.
Chelmsford has some of the largest number of listed properties and houses that are protected in the southeast of England. But I'd like to come back to this particular kiln here, which is one of many throughout the UK, and I'm told by the archaeologists that there is no such thing that is possible that would preserve it, that would enable people to view it as I would like it to be seen done, because unfortunately such structures get vandalised, get damaged, and when we look at some of the problems that we get round here at the moment, I feel sure that would not take long before it would be. So backfilling it with sand so it remains in situ but remains secure is the best option, I'm told, that we have. Because if we look at what we have discovered here in Chelmsford, if it was of national interest, this may well become so, but we're in a situation.
It could be, couldn't it, Councillor? You're still leaving the door open, aren't you? That
No,
it could be, because you haven't had the full. Neither of us have had the full report.
And I think when we get that full report, and I shall push to get it as soon as possible, that is the time to decide who we approach and how we approach them to try and get this open. I'm not saying that it shouldn't be opened. I'd love it to be so, and that was my starting point with the council officials. I shall remain pushing. If there is anything here that is worthy of being seen by the public, then I believe the public should see it. It should be properly displayed, and it should be properly displayed, and it should have the proper signposting so people can find it.